Okay, this is Bert Hamner. I'm going to make sure I can share the right screen here. Do you see just the PowerPoint, just to be clear?
Yeah, yes,
Okay, great. So I'll start. So how much is really scaling up? Consider this. 1 billion seconds is 11 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. The Firebee technology will help billions of people avoid lung disease and death, reduce emissions, and generate electricity from clean cooking. Every day, this woman and 1 billion other women use smoky, inefficient biomass stoves, and they emit 2 billion tons of CO2 a year. Making it worse, 4 million of these people die every year from breathing smoke. They waste up to 10% of their income on unburned fuel, which causes air pollution, deforestation, and flooding. And they spend $50 billion a year to charge their phones. Does this have to be the case? No, because the Firebee solution turns stoves into power sources. Our solution has two parts. First is power from heat. The Firebee thermoelectric generator makes between 10 and 80 watts of USB and 12-volt electric power. Here you see it working in my backyard and in Pakistan, giving families electricity for the first time. The Firebee can be attached to almost any stove. There's nothing else like it. Our second solution is to increase the combustion efficiency of the stoves using the energy from the generator. The jet fume stove blower is a small device with a fan in it that fits into the opening of the stove. It can also operate simply on the ground with wood piled on top of it. Together, the Firebee and the jet flame can reduce smoke, cost, and carbon by up to 50%. This creates incredible value. Families have better health, save money on fuel and charging phones. They can see at night, they can connect to mobile and the internet, and they can afford a new stove. Stakeholders such as these donors support these outcomes, and they fund clean energy and cooking programs. The Firebee promotes 7 of 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals, more than any other technology. The main competition for our product is solar home systems, but they don't prevent stove smoke. There are many clean stove models, but they don't make electricity. We do compete against electric power grids, but those will never get to millions of people. There is only one successful power generating stove company. Here you see it. The BioLite is a camping stove with an integrated generator. However, the generator cannot be used on any other stove. Our difference is that our product works on almost any stove. It's portable and inexpensive and can be made locally to create jobs. We'll be the first to market with a universal solution for clean cooking and energy that's massively scalable. The market truly is global. There are over 500 million homes using biomass stoves, and we estimate the serviceable, obtainable market, being not too ambitious, is estimated at 20 million units with a profit region of around $400 million. Our business model is really quite simple and results in 6 revenue streams. We'll manufacture in China. Our customers will be able to pay only $10 a month for a year to own a new stove and generator. We'll sell retail through Amazon because it's everywhere and stoves are too. But our goal is B2B wholesale to vendors of stoves and solar systems and NGOs and governments. And our revenue streams are product sales, carbon credits, grants, consulting contracts, licensing, and social media. We've got good early traction. 620 Firebees have already been installed in about a dozen countries, and our partners include 2 universities and the US Department of Energy. Since the pandemic, our team has gone virtual around the USA. Without going into much detail, I'll just say that the average age of the partners is about 55. I'm kind of sorry to say that, but we all have tremendous amount of experience. Our go-to-market strategy is very direct. First, we're going to partner with a group called Stove Team International. They're based in Guatemala, where they've sold over 70,000 stoves. Then we'll open in Kenya with our partner Burn Manufacturing. They've sold over 1 million small stoves in Central Africa region. Burn and my company Hydrobee have the same first investors, and we know each other well. And they've already given us a purchase order for 100 Firebee units. The market's so large that we can't realistically estimate global revenue yet, but we can for Central America, where there's at least 10 million potential customers. We can readily sell over 1 million stoves there by 2024. To date, we've raised over 200,000 in investment money, and going forward, we need 50,000 to start hiring and getting new products out in the field. Then we'll raise $500,000 in a Series seed so we can open in Guatemala. We may raise up to 3 million in late 22 to fund global growth, and investors are welcome to contact me. I want to say thank you to the Net Impact team and to IDOS Global and Shell Oil for supporting our program. Our benefits are immense, and we hope that you'll be able to join us in getting it out there. Thanks to Ulysses and Tyler for the personal feedback, and we look forward to meeting more great people in partnership with you all.
Thank you, Bert, and to your team for your work and this great presentation. Judges, I invite your feedback and your questions.
I can go first. Thanks, Bert, for this excellent presentation. Really a wonderful idea. I'm just curious to know if I understand correctly your business model when you said you are into a B2B strategy when you plan to acquire, when you're distributing your product, and if yes or no, either ways. But what is the life of the product, and what happens in case a customer needs an after-sales service? Do you rely on some partners, or what has been the experience around that?
Again, we're going to be selling through vendors, through distributors who are already in place, and they'll be responsible for supplies and for replacement, et cetera. The generator itself uses thermoelectric modules, which are solid state. There's no moving parts. And so far, the generators that have been out there in the field for over 5 years are still working just fine. The manufacturers give the thermal modules a 20-year estimated field life. And like I said, there's no moving parts. It's just you put this thing into the flame and it starts making electricity within about 5 minutes. So we'll supply our vendors with replacement parts as they're needed, but we don't expect a lot of turnover on the products because they're hard to break.
The second question would be on this pay-as-you-go feature you have. So what have you seen in terms of experience? How many customers are actually very religious when it comes to paying on a consistent basis? Can you say something about that as well?
Sure. Pay as you go means that you basically are using your cell phone to do your payments. And in the Central Africa region, in Nigeria and Kenya, in that area, Kenya, 80% of the entire economy is running over mobile phones now. And there are dozens of companies that are providing this pay-as-you-go service. What they offer is a chip that you put on your own circuit board, and it connects to the internet, and it manages all the financing operations for it. So what happens is somebody buys our generator for $10 a month. If they don't make their monthly payment, the vendor can send it a text message and turn it off. And nobody wants to lose access to the electricity because that's so sweet. I'll just say that because this unit has so many benefits, it overcomes the critical challenge of getting people to change the way they cook. They don't like to change. They're resistant to it. And many people are given a nice new clean stoves, and eventually it becomes the flower pot because grandma doesn't like to use it.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. I've seen that in India as well. So I'll just hand over to other judges.
Other questions?
Yeah, Bert, go ahead, Daniel, go ahead. Yeah, I was just actually, Bert, I was gonna ask a little bit more about that last point you made. Yeah, first, thanks for the presentation. I've, similar to what you're saying, I've seen a lot of clean cooking stove projects and clean briquette projects, and adoption is a big barrier. And a lot of it is communal norms and family tradition, and just really kind of understanding how new tech gets adopted. So I am curious either how much you and your team or your partners have spent actually speaking with these communities that you're planning to sell to, and what is kind of the strategy around education and adoption there?
Sure. Well, in terms of understanding the market, we have been working closely with the Clean Cooking Alliance, which you're probably familiar with, and they've been for over 15 years doing market studies around the world. So for Guatemala and for Kenya, they've already done detailed studies of how the people cook and what are their habits and what are the obstacles to change and what's the network around them. This was all done by McKinsey Company under contract with the United Nations. So we have super detailed market knowledge. And then we've also been following with great interest BioLite. BioLite, the company, is the only one that has a generator out there that is a stove. And they have a larger version of it they're selling in Kenya in a small market to test it. But again, their generator works only on their stove, but they've been doing wonderful presentations about how to communicate with people about changing stoves. So we're listening to them. They're out there in the field and they're helping us understand it. The point about going to Guatemala first is that Stove Team International has been there already for 20 years. And with 70,000 stoves installed, they're very familiar with how to overcome these kinds of resistance issues. But every culture is different and every market's different. So what you have to do is be very sensitive to go in and partner with local organizations that have been there a long time and follow their advice. We're going to be an equipment supplier, and they're going to be the interface with the community. There's a great book called The Business Solution to Poverty, How to Build a $1 Billion by Paul Polasek and Malcolm. And it's about how to enter a developing country with a hardware product and the steps necessary to be successful. And we're following that rather as a recipe that's influenced by a lot of great technology transfer programs in the past.
Thanks, Bert. And my question was also going to echo on the adoption point. I had spent some time in Nicaragua. We were distributing solar lanterns, and they were perceived as, magic with a lot of the potential customers. So that was definitely a concern of mine, or a question rather. How much are you depending on your distributors to solve that challenge for you? But yeah, we've sort of exhausted that point. So thank you. I guess I'll just ask a question about the technology. Is there, you have some nice features integrated into this unit. Is there a vision for further developing the tech that you can talk about?
Absolutely. In fact, just in the last couple of weeks, we've had an amazing design breakthrough. I figured out how to make this generator 10% the size and reduce the weight to about 3 pounds. So we have a complete rebuild of this. And we also have a new heat sink that's part of it. And that was developed with grant funding from the Pacific Northwest National Lab and the Department of Energy. And that is going to also make a huge difference in power output and reducing the size. So we have a strong technology development path. And since you are with the National Renewable Energy Lab, Jay, I want you to know that at the University of Houston, we've partnered with the chair of the physics department, who's developed new thermoelectric modules that are half the cost and twice the power of the ones we're using now. And so he's looking to get help to bring those online as well. And they'll be used in our generator. That's a fascinating opportunity because thermoelectric generators can help industry turn waste heat into electricity, but industry doesn't want to take a risk on unproven tech. And so by proving these new modules work on our stoves at low risk, we can show industry that in fact now they can harvest waste heat to electricity economically.
Excellent points. So that IP is National Lab IP, or does Firebee have any of that?
The IP from Houston is University of Houston IP.
Oh,
and
sorry,
we're in discussion with them about licensing it, but they're very excited to hear about this because they had never heard the idea about putting a generator on a stove. The interesting part about this is how the world has changed. 10 years ago, we didn't have USB. 10 years ago, we didn't have cheap LED lights. 10 years ago, we didn't have universal cell phone coverage. All of these things have come together where suddenly this is actually possible to bring clean cooking to 1 billion people at a cost point of under $100 and $10 a month.
Excellent point there. Yeah, thank you.
Bert, hi, it's Sandra. I had a quick question on your margin, which I saw on one of the slides.
Sure.
What's the return for the actual underlying customer? So they're paying $10 a month. When do they get a value proposition out of this?
Well, the experience of Stove Team International in Guatemala is that their customers, because they're using a very efficient stove that's a huge improvement, they're reducing their fuel costs by about half, by about 50%. So we're confident that a customer who's using this could easily save $15 a month on fuel and then pay $10 a month to own the stove and the generator. So they'll be making a net of $5 a month in that particular example. But they're also saving money, by the way, on not having to go somewhere else to pay to charge their phones. And the World Bank estimates that people who live off grid are spending $50 billion a year now to go charge their phones. And now they can do it at home, right, while they're cooking their food. So the net savings to them is on productivity, on health, on fuel cost, on phone charging, on time, because a hotter, better stove cooks faster and they don't have to go spend so much time gathering fuel. So there's a lot of net benefits to people for this.
And we're just about at time.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, I muted myself. Thank you, Bert, and to your team.